gonna call him Oz. I think
Ooh.
Oz is
Oh.
good. Just go with Oz, OZ. Like,
Yeah.
I like that. I'm gonna
Oz.
call him Oz for the sake of the show.
Right here.
What's up? Before we get you to this matchup breakdown, just want to say if you want the entire matchup breakdowns for all of the games for this weekend, you can find those on our podcast. Wherever you get your podcast, just search the Fantasy Whisperers and make sure you subscribe there. And then if you could do me a big favor, hit the thumbs up on this video and subscribe to our channel. Hit that bell so you get notified whenever we put out new content, which is daily. We want to help you win that championship this year as well as have a lot of fun around fantasy football. All right, let's get you to that matchup.
Moving on to our next matchup. This one, honestly, Austin, is one of the more fruitful, likely to be more fruitful fantasy matchups on the slate. It's 54.5-point over-under with Atlanta hosting the Carolina Panthers. That's the third highest over-under. You've got Atlanta barely favored here, 3.5 at home. And so we've got a situation here where Carolina may be coming off the best offensive day they had, at least for Teddy Bridgewater. And you have Mike Davis just filling in very admirably for Christian McCaffrey. When you look at what's going on with this offense, especially in Mike Davis, I mean, you've got to be really happy, especially if you were a CMC GM and you swoop Davis up.
Definitely. The opportunity and the production that Mike Davis has put forward for the Carolina Panthers has made anybody who spent their waiver wire priority or some fob on him very happy. 4.4 yards per carry over his last 2 games compared to CMC's 3.8 yards per carry thus far.
He's better.
He is better in every. Yeah, they're going to just let CMC keep sitting out. They're going to pull that Belichick route. And, one running back's healthy. Just you sit down. No, we know that Christian McCaffrey is also off to a strange start in his own way, but he was balling out. He had over 20 fantasy points per game, as where Mike Davis has not put up those same types of numbers, but he just hasn't been able to get in the end zone and do the same types of big plays that he has. But on a snap-by-snap basis, Mike Davis is looking pretty good. He's getting 14.5 touches per game on the ground. He's a really, really good fill-in. I mean, and one of the other things about Mike Davis is if you look at Pro Football Focus's premier stats from the elusive rankings for Mike Davis, he's actually the number 1 in terms of legitimate running backs. I mean, A.J. Dillon, Jalen Richard, and Jason Huntley are ahead of him, who have like 7 combined carries between all of them. Yeah. So anybody who's had legitimate carries, Mike Davis is performing really well. He's performing well from a fantasy perspective, a football perspective. He's not going to last though once CMC comes back. We know there's 1 week ahead, but I would feel really good about starting him against the Atlanta Falcons.
I'd try to move him if I could at this point. Like maybe you get this one more game out of him, but if you could sell him to another RB thirsty team in your league and you're sitting at a situation where you've got wins and you could afford like stacking up something for the stretch run, I think Mike Davis is a nice sell high because obviously CMC will be back. But DJ Moore truthers, Austin, want to know what the heck is going on with your boy DJ Moore, because Robbie Anderson has emerged as a guy getting a good amount of targets in this offense. Break us down with these pass catchers over in Carolina.
Yeah, DJ Moore is doing all right, but Robbie Anderson is doing really well. And I'm excited to see what Robbie Anderson's about. I was a Robbie Anderson truther over when he was with the Jets and always wanted to see him do what he's capable of. We're talking about a 6'3" speed demon, and Teddy Bridgewater and him have some real rapport. You're talking about him getting a lot of looks. He's getting the most looks on the team at 34 targets on the season. DJ Moore's right there at 32 targets on the season, but Robbie Anderson has been pulling them in at a much more efficient rate. 28 grabs on those 34 carrots on those targets, compared with 18 catches for DJ Moore on 32 targets overall. And Robbie Anderson's got 90 more yards. He's going at a 2.86 yards per route run compared to 2.04 yards per route run. The only category DJ Moore has ahead of Robbie Anderson at this point is red zone catches. He's got 3. Robbie Anderson's got 2. But Robbie Anderson's got 6 targets compared to DJ Moore's 3 targets. And Robbie Anderson has just really been like this model of consistency. 3 out of his 4 games have had 99 yards or more. And he really looks like he's building strong rapport over there with Teddy Bridgewater. I think DJ Moore is going to be just fine. I haven't done the math on this last performance, but before we were thinking he was down through 3 weeks and he was still on pace for 1,200 yards. So I think that DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson are going to be fine plays, continuing to develop more rapport with Teddy Bridgewater moving on. But Robbie Anderson might end up being that wide receiver 1 for the Carolina Panthers. He's got the skill set to do it. Neither one of these wide receivers had rapport with Teddy Bridgewater coming in. So to say that it's going to be DJ Moore, I don't know what case you can really make for that.
Yeah, what's interesting about this year is actually DJ Moore's ADOT is higher than Robbie Anderson's. So they've got DJ Moore kind of using him as the downfield threat, and then Robbie Anderson almost as your possession wide receiver.
Yeah.
Kind of a wild situation that they're doing here. But I think what we did see against Arizona last week is, this offense get to where they wanted to be, which was a high-powered offense throwing all over the place and kind of doing what they want to do. But Teddy Bridgewater is kind of the question for me. Well, let's keep it here with the wide receivers just really quick. I think you're probably firing up both of these guys in this exploitable matchup against Atlanta, right? Wide receiver 3, wide receiver 2 range for both of these guys.
You're getting them both in your lineups for sure. And the one thing I do want to say about DJ Moore, if you've got DJ Moore out there and you're feeling really depressed about, oh my God, Robbie Anderson's going to come and take it over, I'd say take a look at the snap percentage on both of these wideouts. Last week, Robbie Anderson came in at a cool 57% snap share. DJ Moore was at 71%. So that's a wide gap there, 71 to 57%. DJ Moore is their number 1 target. He's the guy built into the playbook. Robbie Anderson just might be off to a quick start with Teddy Bridgewater, or the way they use him might be in a better way. But DJ Moore is an integral part of this offense. You're not taking him out of your lineup. And it's going to develop. And I think it's only going to get better, probably for both of them too.
Bridgewater had his best game of the season last week. In most leagues, that was about a 30-point matchup there that he got you if you were able to stream him last week. And Atlanta coming into this game, giving up 5 more points per game than any other team to the quarterback. Austin, can you go ahead and stream him? You've got Stafford. You've got Rodgers on bye. You've got things happening with COVID moving all around. Maybe you want to get you want to dip your toes in the Bridgewater. Are you down to do it this week?
This is the week to do it. As you mentioned there, the Atlanta Falcons give up the most points of any team in the NFL to the quarterback position, and Teddy Bridgewater has only been getting better and better. Teddy Bridgewater, though, has been pretty underwhelming in terms of a touchdown-interception ratio. The man's got 4 touchdowns through 4 games and 3 interceptions. He's broken 300 yards just 1 time. His rushing is not through the roof. Yeah, he might get you 20 or 30 yards, but he's not going to be someone who has a rush floor the way some other quarterbacks do. But we're going up against a Atlanta Falcons team that just gives up air like it's free. And the receivers that Bridgewater is playing with, they're gelled, they're locked in. The run game is good. They just took out a pretty good Arizona Cardinals team, and the Falcons look bad, man. They look like they're struggling in a lot of ways, defense especially, and that's where I think the Panthers are going to come in and have a really good week. I think everybody that we mentioned here is going to have a solid fantasy performance for the Panthers.
I think Dan Quinn benefited from the fact that they lost to the Packers. I mean, you come in here and you lose to Panthers at home. I don't know how he could keep his job, but he's kept it this far, so who knows. Speaking of those Atlanta Falcons, though, Austin, we've got to turn it over to them. We've got to talk about all these injuries to the wide receiving core. And what we're seeing here, Ridley puts up a big 0 last week, this past Monday night. And then you've got Julio with the hamstring. What are you seeing out of this wide receiving core, and what can Whisper Nation feel confident in for this matchup against the Panthers?
Well, when you take a look at the injuries that are going on from Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley played. He went 0 for on his 5 targets. That's a really big concern to me, because he played, he got 5 targets. He didn't have a single catch. It makes me think that Calvin Ridley needs to have all of the pieces connected, working well with each other, almost like when you have a Ferrari and all of the gears are so tightly connected. And if they're not, the Ferrari's not a Ferrari anymore. And it was a small sample size, but I'm very concerned about Calvin Ridley, given that he did play and he did not play well. Julio Jones, we talked about this on earlier episodes, the skill set, the size, the way that man, Julio Jones, plays the game. Even if he's at 75%, I'm starting Julio Jones, but Julio Jones re-aggravated his leg. We'll see how he does moving forward. Keep an eye on that. But now this opens up the door to some other players. Russell Gage has been a hot topic. And now we can't leave without mentioning Olamide Zaccheaus. How is
Zaccheaus or Zaccheaus? I have no idea.
I hate getting names wrong.
I'm going to call him Oz. I think
Ooh.
Oz is good.
Oh,
Just go with Oz, OZ. Like, I
yeah.
like that. We'll
Oz.
call him Oz for the sake of the show.
Oz, yes, I like that over here. Oz with with the Atlanta
The
Falcons
great
over
and
here.
powerful.
Yeah. Well, I mean, last week he led the team with a 76% snap percentage, and that is with Calvin Ridley and Russell Gage still on the field. He went 8 for 9 and 86 yards on a touchdownless game from the air. So Oz is
Yeah.
somebody that's kind of sneaky to take a look at right now, given all the injuries.
Evan Silva had astutely pointed out that they're not just using OZ as the guy that, runs those go routes. They're using him all over, kind of like they did with Julio. So when Julio went down, OZ was that big body, that threat for them. So I would be taking a look at him on your waivers. I think I put him in the waiver wire column. If he's still there after waivers clear by the time you listen to this, take a look. But he could be in for a spot start, especially if Ridley's still banged up and Julio's out.
Yeah, he definitely can.
We've got Hayden Hurst to talk about as well. And Austin, I know you have been invested in Hurst in a couple leagues here. How are you feeling about Hurst? He's coming off some good targets. If those guys are banged up, does Hurst get into your lineup? And especially this week against Carolina.
Yeah, I think that Hurst can be plugged into your lineup really almost any week, given the nature of the Falcons team. The problem is that there's a lot of pass catchers over there, and he is that fourth option. He's always going to be that fourth option pretty much. When you're dealing with a team like the Falcons that throw the ball as often as they do, that's going to keep his ceiling high, but his floor is low. Because you're going to have games. I mean, like 2 weeks ago, he had one catch for a touchdown, which is great. But if he had that touchdown taken away, we would really be thinking about Hayden Hurst in a different kind of capacity. His floor is subterranean, and you'd think he's actually doing better than he is. He's the number 17 tight end in the NFL in points per game. And he's number 37 for tight ends in yards per route run. So he's really, we know what he's capable of. And playing behind Matt Ryan, you can have a good game at any point in time. But thus far, 4 games through the season, it's not a model of consistency, and it's nothing you can rely on.
I think, yeah, you want to be monitoring those pass catchers' health before you're trusting him in your lineup. Now, we've got to look at this, even though it kind of stinks to look at it, and that's the running back position over here for the Atlanta Falcons. Todd Gurley disappointing you for the most part. He did get 2 touchdowns last week against the Green Bay team. And this is a smash spot for most running backs against a Carolina team that's bottom of the barrel pretty much for fantasy running backs to go up against. So what are you feeling with Todd Gurley here? What can you say to give any kind of confidence here?
Well, I think that what we've seen from Todd Gurley thus far is what we're going to continue to see unless there's some major changes to the Falcons overall. Like if they end up firing Dan Quinn, or they go, if maybe an injury comes in, something like that. But I think what you're seeing right now is what you're going to continue to see. In many ways, it's kind of working. What I mean by that is 54% snap percentage. Todd Gurley's enjoying at the moment. Brian Hill is over there at a 26% snap share percentage. And then Ito Smith chilling at 18%. So it's really Brian Hill and Todd Gurley right now. And their stats somewhat reflect that. Now, Todd Gurley's at 3.9 yards per carry. He's gotten 65 touches and 254 yards on the season, which is not awful. 4 touchdowns to go along with that, which is what's really saving him. He's been getting the majority of the goal line work, the red zone work, and if that is what stays, you're all right with Todd Gurley. But as soon as they start giving any of the goal line work over to Brian Hill, I would try to get rid and trade Todd Gurley while you still can, because Brian Hill has been a more efficient runner. He just hasn't been given the opportunity. So there would need to be an opportunity shift for Todd Gurley to lose the value that he currently has. We'll see if that happens.
Also, we've got a scenario here. You are a Matt Ryan GM. You've got him on your roster. He's the QB 10 on the year right now. But you're thinking about going to the streaming well. You've got Joe Burrow. You've got Gardner Minshew. You've got Teddy Bridgewater there. Are you keeping Ryan locked in your lineup in this matchup, or are you going to the streaming bucket?
This is a really nice matchup, but the injury concerns that Matt Ryan without a Julio Jones, Matt Ryan with a Calvin Ridley, who we don't know where he's at. And then we're talking about Oz and Russell Gage and Hayden Hurst pulling it in. This is not an Aaron Rodgers situation. This is not a team that's locked in, that's in control. And I would definitely start to consider other options on the waiver. And I've loved Matt Ryan, man. This guy's been such a cool, voluminous player. But right now, we're talking about 1 touchdown and 1 interception combined over the last 2 weeks against Chicago and against Green Bay. In those games, 238 yards, 285 yards. I mean, you're hoping for at least a major yardage game from Matt Ryan. Like, give me 400 yards, a touchdown, and 2 picks. No, you're getting 238 yards and a touchdown and nothing, 285 yards and nothing to go along with that. He's the number 21 quarterback on adjusted completion percentage. So even when he's got time, even when he's just not performing that well. He's had back-to-back borderline dud games. The good news for him is that Carolina's pass rush is sorry. They've got 3 sacks on the entire season. So give him a little bit of time to step back. It's a interdivision game, rivalry situation. You could see Matt Ryan saying, like, no, we're going to go ahead and step up in this one, but I would absolutely be considering waiver wire options moving forward this week and other ones.
Yeah, if you can't get it done here, you definitely got to figure another thing out. But I think you're right. I think this is kind of that last week with Matt Ryan to say, look, the over-under's high. They're at home. He should be able to rock and roll.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Whisperers podcast. You can hear more from John and Travis on Google Play, SoundCloud, and iTunes. You can also follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at TF Whisperers.